So good morning, everyone. We can actually get started now. It's a little bit late, but yes, like I was saying to Chris and Daryl, I'm my own host today because even though this class is hosted by Thupten Norbu Ling in America, we've just had Sakadawa, Buddha's birthday last night, but it's Buddha's birthday for them right now. Buddha's birthday continues around the world. It's really lovely. It doesn't inherently exist. Cannot be found in any one particular place. And so they're having special celebrations. Their Geshe is leading Shakyamuni Buddha Puja, and so I didn't want to be on their program in competition with that. So we're just on our own program today, and they'll do the video and everything for people to catch up later on. So a warm welcome to you all, especially warm, literally warm welcome, since we're in the throes of winter here in Australia. And we've got this short time together to discuss how to be our own therapist. The Buddha was his own therapist and really showed the way. What a trailblazer. And we ourselves too can become our own therapist. And you might think that this is an enormous and overwhelming task, but that's often because we identify with everything that's wrong with us, with all of the problems, with all of our limitations, and we think that's us. We don't recognize that that's all the pollution in our mind, or the veils, or the befuddlement. And all of that is temporary and can be removed to reveal the clean, clear clarity and awareness of our mind, which is our nature. So how we be our own therapist is to kind of pull back, get the whole meta-analysis, and stop identifying with our problems and start identifying with the Dharmakaya, that pure nature of our mind, that infinite spaciousness, clarity, and knowing. And from that perspective, then we can look back at our current situation and become our own therapist. You might be wondering, well, how on earth do we do this? There's something that always comes back to me that Lama Zopa Rinpoche said about dealing with anxiety and depression, and in particular depression, where he said, even if you are experiencing depression or undergoing depression, when you wake up in the morning, then you think, yeah, I might be experiencing depression, but I'm not going to let it upset me. So it just goes along on its own track. Yep, it's a ripening of karma. It's a result of many causes and conditions, but you don't let it upset you or disturb your equilibrium. And that thought, don't let it upset you, rather than fighting against it and going, no, 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 I don't want it. No, I can't handle it. Just go, oh, okay, here comes this wave of depression, but I'm not going to let it upset me. And you kind of ride it out. I've found just that one little sentence has been like a life raft to hold on to, including learning how to lead things online and all of this. It's like, yeah, it's really stressful. Don't let it upset you. That's okay. So it's a way of finding an equilibrium. And that's what I wanted today's topic to kind of be based around, how to find that equilibrium in our day-to-day experience. So we can go through the day with whatever stresses and disasters are happening and not let it upset us, meaning not let it shake us and our foundations. Of course, we still feel and care and everything like that, but we don't let it just disturb our mind. So let's just do a little reflection, and then we can set our motivation for the day. And perhaps in the reflection, you might have some questions that naturally come up as well. So wherever we are in our room at home, make sure that your posture also has a nice equilibrium, not too tight and not too loose. So nice straight back, but a relaxed posture, a relaxed position. And in particular, make sure that you just pull your shoulders back a little bit so the chest and heart area opens so you can breathe. Release any tension from the neck and the shoulders. And bring your focus to the breath. As Corey Jackson often says, just let the body breathe itself. So you don't have to control your breathing, but just bring your focus to it and let your attention just rest on the breath as you're breathing in and breathing out. And you'll notice that your breath will naturally slow down a little bit. And let yourself breathe from the abdomen, from the deep in the lungs, not just that the very top, the top of the lungs, the fast breathing, but just as you release that tension from the neck and the shoulders, your breathing naturally becomes deeper. And we can, from this space, think why we're here. Well, we're here for a whole range of reasons. We're here, of course, for whatever pressing event or issues brought us here. And we're here, of course, because we want to be happy and not suffer or have problems. And then we can extend our motivation to think, well, fundamentally, everyone is actually just like us. They feel things just like us. They don't want to suffer just like us. They want to have a good life just like us. So all the effort we put in today may be able to benefit not just us, but everyone who is just like us. Everyone in the same boat. And not only that, then we can think, well, what kind of benefit? A really extensive one. Let's not put any limitations on the benefit that we're seeking, that our purpose is. The benefit, nothing less than becoming completely well to achieving perfect mental health, which is liberation, enlightenment, being completely free of all the disturbing emotions and confusions, and revealing our innately good, clear, pure nature. So that's the benefit, the extent of the benefit. And if we can do that for ourselves, we can help everybody else along the way. So we have our motivation from Lama Yeshe. What is the purpose of being alive today? It must be something more important than drinking coffee. Today, I'll develop bodhicitta, leading to the peaceful path of liberation and full awakening for the benefit of all beings. From this moment on, until I go to sleep, I shall stay aware of every action of my body, speech, and mind. Wherever possible, I shall try to help, and at the very least, I will not harm. So last week we kind of talked about how to set a motivation, and so this week let's talk about how to set our mind in equanimity. So I gave a little bit of a preamble, and I'm just wondering, are there any questions or comments that have come up from that, just about equanimity in general? Raise your hand, your virtual hand, put something into the chat, whatever you like. And welcome to Angie, who's arrived as well. While you're thinking about that, about equanimity or the equilibrium in our keeping our mind in a stable and undisturbed like that, when I first heard about equanimity, I thought it meant flatlining, having no response or no emotions. And it didn't sound very nice to me. And I don't know why I had that assumption that it was flatlining, but probably because when I first heard the terms like non-hatred or non-attachment, or being detached, sometimes Westerners use, along with that came a whole lot of cultural assumptions, and I just assumed, oh yeah, that means just flatlining. And I didn't want to do that. I want to live a passionate life. I want to be moved and excited about, and inspired by things. So actually, equanimity has a really wonderful kind of connotation from a Buddhist point of view. And one of them isn't that we're flatlining, but that we have equal care and concern and warmth towards everybody. So it's equal, but it's upper level. So just like we naturally care about how we feel, then we extend that to others, and we naturally care about them, and their joys are our joys, and we have a natural affection and warmth and openness towards others. So that's the equanimity that we're aiming towards, not just the flatlining. So equally drawn towards others, without favoritism, without fear, equally connected, which is what we're all seeking, isn't it? So Daryl, yes, go for it.
My favorite description of equanimity was from you, a few lessons back in the past, but it was about the zookeeper and how they treat all the animals with equal care and attention, but they'll pat the rabbits and the kittens, but not the snakes. But the snakes don't get any less care or attention than the other animals. It's just that maybe not so touchy, and
Yeah.
that's always really
Actually,
stuck with me.
I'd forgotten about that the zookeeper analogy. And actually, when you think about it, zookeepers do touch the snakes, don't they? But differently from the rabbits. So they don't have this kind of it's not all about them and what they want. Well, I want to cuddle and I'm going to make the snake cuddle me. It's actually about what's appropriate for those animals. And yeah, so the rabbits, they don't like loud noises, and they're naturally soft. And the snakes too, they need warmth, don't they? But the care that you have for a snake, it's got to be informed with wisdom. But snakes too, snakes and rabbits, they don't like loud noises. They don't want to be scared. They want to be safe. And zookeepers naturally understand that. Yeah, that's right. So that's a really good one, that instead of us trying to force everybody to be in the image that we like or that we want, we kind of shift our focus from us to them. And so that's what a zookeeper does. It's not about the zookeeper, it's about the animals. And just shifting that focus from it, instead of all about me, now it's all about you, it does that this amazing thing, doesn't it? It kind of helps us too, because we're more in touch with the situation. We're much more realistic, and then we can really develop our care that much. Yeah, so without favoritism or fear comes from actually being able to see really clearly what the situation is. So that's again, it's wisdom that supports our equanimity. It's wisdom that supports our good-heartedness. And so yeah, I often think, like, there's the ads on TV about the World Wildlife Fund, and it's always the pandas and the koalas that the most successful fundraiser. And like, who's going to who cares about some weird frog species that's about to go extinct, or some snake, or crocodiles? Like, people think about the crocodiles up in the Northern Territory, and it's like, why are we protecting them? They just kill people. All of these things, really biased, isn't it, by the appearance? And what a task for the Wildlife Fund to try and like help all of the wildlife. Really difficult. So we can't, if we're thinking, oh, it's just all about me, we can't even begin to care about them. I'm also really glad you brought this up, Daryl, because this is such a nice, obvious example that just keeps on giving, doesn't it? But then when we try and bring it to our experience with human to human relationships, it all just goes, whoa, convoluted and muddy. So it's much better I really like referring to these really obvious examples to help me sort it all out. And so, yeah, there are people that, as the lamas say, show an angry face. So it's even nice just to think of it as showing an angry demeanor or an angry face, rather than they are angry. So just like a crocodile, it shows a hardened exterior, but if we're a zookeeper, we're caring about them. So it's just how they're manifesting. So same angry person showing an angry face, then we can think, what's under that face? Well, there's only one thing that can be under anger, isn't it? And that's suffering. It's never happiness, and it's never clarity. It's suffering and distortion and confusion. Because we know even when we're really angry and we've got that white hot anger, we might think we're clear, but it's distorted clarity. It's missing a whole section of things. It's just clear in one thing. So it's like a funhouse mirror. We're seeing something, but it's completely distorted. So what's under anger is confusion and hurt, and it turns into hatred, and then you get the angry face. But we can look even deeper than that. It's like, well, why am I being shown an angry face? Why is it an angry face to me? Well, that's my vision. Because to a mother, that's not an angry face. That's my dear son or daughter suffering, and someone's hurt them or whatever, It's just me who sees the angry face. And we can get even more outrageous. And this is where Buddhist psychology is so radical, that then actually, karmically, when someone shows me their angry face, when they're angry towards me, that's our karmic relationship. And actually, I have been the catalyst for them to become angry. So I'm contributing to them creating negative karma. In fact, by them being angry at me, I am contributing to them creating more negativity and experiencing more unhappiness in the future. I mean, that's really out there, isn't it? But that's actually what's happening. So everybody that's cross and angry at me, I've been the catalyst for that. So actually my existence is creating suffering for them. What do you reckon about that, Chris?
Well, sorry, because I appreciate where you come from, but there's got to be an element of wisdom. So I've got teenage kids, or they're older teenage kids, so they get angry with me at times, where it's just their desires. So you draw a line in the sand, say, okay, we're not doing that, and they get upset with you there. So that line is really, if I know people who are from a wealthy background who have been given everything, and it ruins them. They grow up, often grow up terrible people. They're very, very self-entitled. So there's got to be that process with. So I'm talking about family, but even with friends, the time. And my wife is one of the few people who will call me out and say, no, that was, what you did was over the line. And that I really appreciate that. But not many people, when I'm 6'3" and can be assertive at times. Not many people will call you out, but Sue does, and which is really important. And in the moment, I might be a bit cranky with her, but
yeah.
That's there's right. That wisdom that
Yes. And that's one of the most important things to think, well, what actually is a friend? Because normally we think a friend is someone we like being with or we have a good time with. And so you've brought out this whole other thing, Chris, there, of actually what a friend is someone who will call you out, who you can rely on to call you out and to keep you honest and authentic. And that's not necessarily fun, and it's not necessarily pleasant. And like you said, you can feel the crankiness coming up, but with your wisdom, actually this is really important and really beneficial. So right there, if we don't have equanimity, we won't have any friends, because the only people that we'll think of as friends are ones that we like having fun with. And they are not reliable in an emergency. They won't tell us what's what. They won't back us up. They won't help us and support us to be a better person. In fact, everyone that we like having fun with probably just brings out the worst in us, like you're mentioning, this sense of entitlement. So how ironic is that? And the friend is the one who tells you what's what. So that's a really good point. And actually, I remember Lama Zopa Rinpoche saying that actually we get very little from our common, like ordinary friendships. What we get from the enemy is far more beneficial. What we get from the enemy is patience, tolerance, and happiness. But to see the workings of how come that's what we get from the enemy, because I think of all the times in my life, anything that's made me grow or become a better person, it hasn't been having fun. It's been that spectrum from challenging to really in your face, confronting and difficult. And it hasn't been fun. But coming out the other end, that's what's made me a good person. And then I think of the 15 years that I had fun with a lot of vodka and a lot of acquaintances and pals and really witty, funny, beautiful people. Very little to show for it, except perhaps courage. But otherwise, nothing much at all. So that's so commendable, Chris, that you can recognize that in your partner, that that's something that you can rely on. And that's like being a spiritual friend in a way. It's being a Dharma brother and sister, to be able to rely on them like that. And that if you're going to go off the rails, they will help you. They'll let, and I've got friends like that too, that I rely on them, that if I'm just like losing my mind, they'll say, now Miffi, come back down to earth a bit. And then, like you mentioned, you had teenage kids. So this is where you've got to demonstrate this whole process, so that when you lay down the line and go, no, this is the line, and then they get cranky at you, somehow you've got to be able to model or express your confidence that when they're being cranky, they're being cranky at the line you've drawn and not at you. And so you can be really relaxed and friendly and not take it personally, and embody that, demonstrate it to them, so they can see, here's my dad, Chris. I've just laid all this whole heavy trip on him, and he's cool. He hasn't taken it personally, and he's framed the whole situation to go, actually, you're not pissed off with me, you're pissed off with the rule. Yeah, it's the rule that's difficult.
Yeah, and that's it, mate. It is drawing a line in the sand and not getting it's not a personal affront. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
And you as a dad, that's your job, Chris. I'm taking my metaphorical hat off to you already. But see, this is the thing, isn't it? So we've got all this background of the teachings, but where it counts is in our day-to-day relationships, isn't it? That's really where it counts. That's our boot camp. Our family is our boot camp. And the motivation that we set, Chris, can be, we can do this really amazing trick. It's like a Buddhist trick, turning the whole thing around. That instead of thinking I'm just doing it for my family, you think I am on the path to enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and part of that is to be able to develop wisdom and patience and tolerance, and for the benefit of all sentient beings. And here's one in front of me right now. So you have your family as part of all the sentient beings. So then everything that you do for your family isn't just for your family, which is like it's a tunnel vision narrowing down. You're thinking it's for all sentient beings starting here.
Just on that, if I can extend that, with equanimity, it's treating everybody the same. Right? And it's a lot. In a sense, it's the family and friendship group is a great place to start because it's pretty obvious. But turn on the news tonight, and these people in Ukraine going through horrible things, and it's hard then to. So what's your advice in terms of being able?
Yeah. So
where do you draw the line? Where's the wisdom?
It's not quite treating everybody the same. There's a lot of nuances with equanimity, and so one of them is treating everybody the same as me, as important as me. Because otherwise, when we think treat everyone the same, what I hear in my mind and what I naturally tend to is treat everybody the same, flatlining. So we've got to add on this thing psychologically to get it, to say, treat everybody as just like me, as important as me, as sensitive as me. And that way psychologically we'll get it. Otherwise, we tend towards the kind of bland neutral rather than uplifting it. So the Ukraine situation too, at first we see, and with any war, we see first the side that we identify with and the side that we don't. And even this with the Ukraine war, I'm so ashamed of myself as a human being because I've got relatives next door to Ukraine in the Baltic states. And so I have this personal connection. And yet, just next door, there's been this war in Yemen going on for 7 years. But I haven't had that personal connection. Why? Because I don't have relatives right next door. And, people with brown skin, well, how does the thinking go? Well, somehow they're more used to it, isn't it? It's terrible. But now Ukraine, white people, it's so shameful what I see in myself like this. It's not that I haven't made it up, but I've noticed, why is there a connection? And there's a connection because I've got relatives there. They look like me. It's kind of a more Western culture, not really, but so we have these biases that are just built in, and they can go one way or another. They can go towards making us more biased and just caring about me and mine. So Ukraine, we've extended our heart. We're thinking that's me and mine. And others, Bangladesh or Yemen or something, oh, not me and mine, so it doesn't matter. Or, Indigenous Australians, doesn't matter, different. So in our mind, we've got same and different, and we can see how toxic that is. But even then you look in and you go, well, Russia. So there's all these people that have left Russia because they don't agree what's going on. The Russian immigrants, they're there, they're flowing into Georgia and the Baltic states and Poland, and they're escaping Russia, and they hate the idea of, you know, what's going on, and yet they're pariahs. They get into these countries and everyone hates them because they're Russian speaking, and they feel so guilty. I read an article about this one guy who felt like he had this hole in his heart because of what's being done in his name as a Russian. And he left to save his family because otherwise he was going to be locked up in Russia, and then felt so guilty for leaving all of his other compatriots there in Russia. And then who's left in Russia? All the ones that agree with you know, the propaganda and the everything. So it's like one way you're betraying your country, another way you go and you become an enemy in another country. And then all those people in Russia. So what's happening? You know, it's just the little people. They get trodden by the powers that be over and over. I mean, Russia's got this thousands long year history of just suffering, of just being dominated, of suffering, and no way of getting any real news. So then you've got to start saying, oh, okay, so then it's the Russian army or the Russian military. It's not all the Russian people. And then you look at the army and the military and you go, well, it's made up of all these kids that they just want an education. It's the only way they can get some food, or they're being conscripted. They think they're going in to liberate people, and they get there and it's completely different. So then what do you do when you're backed into a corner like that? Then you become, it's like a guard dog that's backed into a corner. You become vicious. So my relatives, you know, even when a large plane goes overhead or a big truck rumbles by on the street, will wake up from sleep going, the Russians are coming, from a trauma from the war of the Russians coming, because the ferocity and viciousness of the Russian army was unbelievable in the Second World War, just unbelievable. So there's this trauma still to this day, and not just them, but their children, me, my generation, you know, this inherited trauma that we have. So, you know, the viciousness is there. It is there, but what's motivating it, you know, is this whole combination of fear and propaganda and, you know, and tyranny. And then you can look even further in. You go, well, what about this tyranny? So even then, so if you have power and you want to be happy and you set yourself up in competition with others, you're intimidated by others, then like Putin, every move that another country does that's not his country, he sees it as aggression. And this is what all bullies experience. They feel they are the victim and everybody else is aggressing them. So again, it's like, well, how can you hate someone like that? That is like being in the throes of torment, where it's like there's a saying in Buddhism where all appearances arise as the enemy. So this is the syndrome that Putin has. All appearances arise as the enemy. Everybody, all his ministers, everybody doesn't trust anyone. So that psychologically is the most tormenting prison to be in. But there's this terrible thing, when all appearances arise as the enemy and you have power, then you act on it and disaster happens. So again, going back to Daryl's thing about the zookeeper, then you think, okay, so Putin's one of those very poisonous beasts, but stuck like that. That's their world. How can we hate them? We're not going to cuddle them. We're not going to be stupid, but we can't hate them, can we? Because, you know, what if they were me and mine? What if they were my relatives? Maybe you have relatives that where all appearances arise as the enemy. I've had friends like this, where they've just been So overwhelmed with rage at the world. And everybody's out to get them. And it just means they have no friends. And, you know, I could maybe spend half an hour with them before I was completely overwhelmed with negativity and just had to get out there, or I was going to, you know, get as negative. It's really hard. It's really tough work when you have someone that their whole drive is just rage at the world. So, the human family. What other comments, questions do you have? I've probably talked your ear off a bit here. Sorry.
Miffi, so interesting. So the things you're saying is so interesting and so relevant, especially, when you think about the suffering state that Courtin would be in. Like, for all his power, you wouldn't want to trade places with him for a second. I was curious to go back to where you were talking about someone being angry at you, and you're into seeing that as anger, but then you went on to say that karmically, you take it a step further, you sort of recognize that there is a karma ripening there, I guess, that you're kind of a catalyst for their anger. But I'm just wondering a little bit then, like, what then? Because my immediate reaction would be to feel guilt and horror and, oh gosh, I'm making things worse, and that doesn't really help me. So what then? So you sort of recognize the role you're playing in it, but then how do you make things better, or what do you do in that then?
That's good point, Alicia. So I think when we start, and especially with karma, which is such a big thing, and we tend to race through it intellectually, but when you think about karma, it's good to go very slowly, because actually if you start getting it, it breaks your heart, and we don't like that. So we go, instead of kind of just letting the enormity of it flood over you, go, oh no, this is terrible. We rush straight to, oh no, I'm a bad person, or oh no, I don't want to hear that, and try and close that bad feeling down. And so often one way we close it down is by going, no, I don't agree. Or we go, that's terrible. It's all my fault. I must be bad. So I think it's like we have to just go a bit slower and have real big heartedness to know we can carry it. We can carry that feeling. And that feeling of your heart breaking for others can strengthen you. That can strengthen your compassion. And how come it can is because we don't just leave it there, but we let our heart break for others. And in that, a little thought starts to come up that goes, I have to help them. Even though I don't feel ready, even though it's like, why is it up to me? Even though we might be a reluctant bodhisattva, it's like, well, nobody else is doing it. I have to do it. I'm the totally unprepared person in the world, but this little thought comes up, I have to do something. And the moment we have that thought, Alicia, then it channels all of that energy. It channels all of that emotion, and we can use it. And then the amount of emotion that we have becomes the amount of strength that we have. So instead of it debilitating us or making us depressed or guilty, it really becomes a fuel. So, I think about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. How does he cope with having lost his country and his people and genocide and all of this kind of thing? How come he's not completely debilitated by that? I mean, that's a heavy trauma, but he's got the training of how to turn that trauma and that feeling into an activity. And the activity is compassion. Compassion is a doing thing. So it has the feeling, and then you get, well, I've got to do something. And so what do? It motivates everything that we do, from making a cup of tea for someone to determining, oh my gosh, I've got to become a Buddha so I can actually help everybody. So what's going to sustain us in that thought, I've got to become a Buddha to be able to help everybody? It's got to be something really big. So it's got to be that big-heartedness. So we've got to have that kind of that empathy and that care and that emotion for everybody, and then use it. But we're just not trained in that. We just have that feeling of, oh no, now I've gone and been a trigger for this person. Now the situation's even worse, and we don't know where to go with it. So
Thank
where
you.
to go with
That's really helpful. Thanks.
So yeah, it's compassion training. So maybe next week I might kind of delve into that empathy and compassion, because it requires training. I mean, that's why we have the Bodhisattva training, and that's why we have the how to develop bodhicitta, all the, you know, the 3 main methods, because it's step by step how to get from ordinary compassion to great compassion to bodhicitta. You know, so it's a progression, and it requires training so that we don't freak out about it. So this is great discussion, because I did have one slide and it kind of sums up. You know, without equanimity, without this kind of equal care or an equal feeling of warmth towards others, we can't even develop bodhicitta. So the foundation of bodhicitta is equanimity. If we don't get that, including everybody in our feeling of care, we can't get bodhicitta. And so normally we just value people, or we like people based on what they do for us. So we like people that we have fun with. We don't like people that show the angry face, and we just forget about the strangers. They're not even there. You know, the rest of the world isn't even there. So that's the normal state of affairs. So of course, how can we tell that that is our normal state of affairs? Because we feel lonely, we feel isolated, we feel intimidated, we feel needy, all of that, that's symptoms of this. So how to fix this? Equanimity, a feeling equally drawn towards all, without favoritism, without fear. And probably the third one would be without indifference. So we're removing those 3 biases. And where do we start with this? And this one's specifically for you, Chris, too. It's like distinguishing between the person and our relationship with them. So, you know, you have your teenage kids who you love and you care for, and then the relationship will go up and down. It'll be rocky, but you don't let that disturb your love for them. And so it's actually a positive relationship that brings happiness, not just having fun together. So, you know, like a whole lot of rich kids, they might have fun together with their parents and do sport, but it doesn't necessarily bring a positive relationship. And, you know, we can see that in the end, you know, how bereft people are, how they're in competition with their parents or their siblings. They don't feel close. They don't call on each other for help. So it's really that relationship that brings happiness, long-term happiness. And of course, the real enemy is hatred and anger. The real enemy is not Putin. The real enemy is hatred and anger. And they're right there with Putin and the Ukraine, from our privileged position over here on the other side of the world, where we can feel completely safe and go through thinking about all of this as a, you know, as a nice contained experiment. We can see that someone with such a terrifying face or you know, power as Putin can be an incredible teacher for us, because the whole example's there, right there in our face, and we're in this position where it's not endangering our life, so we can use this example. So our job, homework for the week, is to actually come to care as much about Putin as we do about the Ukrainians. So it's not that we care less for the Ukraine. No, for the Ukrainians, we have to care as much about our enemies as our friends. We've got to lift them up.
And then, Miffi, we have to care for the people in Yemen as well, and Syria.
And that's right. That's right. So without indifference as well, care for the ones in Yemen as well, as much. And really, so how do we do that? Well, indifference, how to work against indifference is, of course, to find what we have in common. And you just find one thing you have in common. You like the same type of dinner. You grow the same herbs in your garden. You went to the same place for a holiday. You've both got kids the same age. You both have a dog. You know, anything where you find that you have in common, now suddenly they come alive as a human being to us. So the homework for that, of course, is to the TV homework, which I love giving TV homework. The TV homework is to watch You Can't Ask That. On that, I mean, that's, believe it or not, the ABC's most popular show and most successful show of all time. And it's just this tiny little crew that does it, and it's been going for years. There's like 6 or 7 series now, and I guarantee you any episode at all that you watch is spectacular. And so when I'm feeling particularly down about the world and particularly down about human beings, as a real pick-me-up, I just watch an episode at night before I go to sleep. I watch an episode of You Can't Ask That. And I guarantee you at the end of every episode, you're feeling so positive about humanity. It's such a skillful show. So in terms of finding what we have in common and really going through an experience within 20 minutes, these people on the screen, they go from being strangers and you couldn't care less, or you might even have, a negative thought about them. Within 20 minutes, you feel like you have new friends. Just by that, it's such like you actually go through this experience of these Buddhist meditations. And if with our understanding, we can see what's happening. It's such a powerful thing to actually see, oh yeah, just by finding out what we have in common and by having empathy for others and by listening to funny stories, at the end, we feel close. We don't even know them. We feel close. And what happens when we feel close? We feel happy. We have friends. And so then I think, well, this is how the Dalai Lama, how His Holiness feels about all of us. But he doesn't have to watch You Can't Ask That because he does it in meditation. And that's why when he sees people, he's just naturally so happy to see you, even if he's never met you before. And what happens then? Then we're just so happy to be alive because somebody else genuinely sees us as a worthwhile, important human being with all of our foibles and everything. So, benefit for us, benefit for them. Does anyone watch this? Is anyone else a fan of this show? You Can't Ask This? Yep. Can't Ask That. Chris is, Alicia is, excellent. Daryl, are you? Yeah. Yep. Good. Glad to hear. I think last year, just about every class I led, I set it as homework. I don't know if you have it over in America, but it might be on YouTube. You Can't Ask That. So, to sum up, we've got equanimity, feeling equal care towards all. We start with everybody that we know and we love already. You know, the good thing is that we feel warmth and care towards them, and we think about them, we feel happy. It's a good feeling. Love, kindness, it's a good feeling. So don't ever shut that down. What we do is we take that good feeling and we make it stronger, and we extend it out to everybody. So just like I love my cats, my 2 cats, then I think, oh, if I spent the same amount of time with another cat, I would love them equally. So now I'm going to extend that love out to all the cats, all the ones I haven't met, all the stinky old ones, all the cranky, scratchy ones, the really big ones like the lions and the tigers, out to everybody, just like I love these ones. So then the love and care that you have for me and mine, you can extend. You can make it a beneficial thing. Instead of it becoming attachment, you can use that to really genuinely care for everybody else, expand it out. So loving kindness meditation, it's a really nice one. When you're down, it's a really good one to do. And it will guard us against our love being contaminated with attachment. So attachment is when the focus turns away from them, how wonderful for them, caring for them, and it turns back to me. How are they treating me? You know, so all the nice cats that I don't know, well, I don't care about them because they don't, you know, they don't come and sit on my lap. They sit on someone else's lap, so that doesn't matter. So, you know, that's the difference between this real love and care and attachment. So we kind of swivel it out to include everybody. And then strangers. So instead of being like this picture, meh, is it M-E-H, meh, which is normally how we feel about strangers. You know, who cares, whatever. So we raise the bar. So we start going through in our mind, or watching the You Can't Ask That, to actually start caring, to start loving them, to start feeling kind towards them. So we raise the bar up. So everybody becomes our friend, our near and dear. You know, if we start seeing what we have in common, then they start mattering to us. When they matter, then we start feeling close. So it's kind of like, if someone's house is flooded in another city, we don't really care. But if their house is flooded in our street, it makes the news. We care. We go, oh my God, that was in my street. You know, or if there is an accident in our street, everybody comes out and it matters. But if there's an accident in the next suburb, nobody cares. So vicinity also makes a difference, how close it is, emotionally and physically. And then here we go. Here's the zookeeper one, feeling concern for the enemies. So we judge the behavior, not the person. So here's the dog, the guard dog, the rabid guard dog. There is no way that you're going to give them a cuddle. No, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't think, oh, I can overcome my fear and give them a cuddle. No. Physically, we've got to be very, very careful. Emotionally, we also have to be careful and not put ourselves in inappropriate situations and remove ourselves from negative, life-threatening situations if we have to and if we can. But never let go of our concern. So just like a guard dog who's rabid, you know, we know that they act like this because they are brutalized. They've been mistreated, and it comes from suffering. So that way we can care. Because how can we say a dog is evil? You know, a dog is just mistreated but becomes vicious and sneaky and all of those things, yes. But we don't ever say, oh, they're evil. So I find it very clear with dogs and not so clear with humans, but we can extrapolate out. So judge the behavior, not the person. The behavior may be very dangerous, but the person can matter as much. And in fact, when we go through this reasoning and we look at the guard dog and how all appearances arise as the enemy to a guard dog, don't they? A guard dog sees everything as the enemy and is actually frightened of everything. Then if we understand that's the world for a guard dog, not only do we not hate them, then our heart breaks for them. Then we want to stop cruelty towards dogs. We want to help them, find a way to rehabilitate them, at least take them out of a terrible situation. So we have that little thought in our heart come up, oh, I have to help. So yeah, not an angry person, but showing the angry face, and always behind the anger, it's pain. It might be very, very, very behind, but that's what's there. So we've reached the end of our time. So let's do a little dedication. And this particular dedication, we can read it together in a moment. But what's so wonderful about it is it's a way that we can dedicate that if we do have current enemies, if we are the catalyst for people getting cross at us, or being jealous, towards us, or any of those negative mind states, because that is a connection, we can use that connection. It's not pleasant, but it's there. And even the Buddha used these connections with others. So there is this great story of the Buddha where he was invited to teach in a town, and he gave teachings, and everyone was so receptive, and it blew their minds, and they just dove right in, and it had a huge effect, except for this one lady she was just cross, and she just thought the Buddha was just a crock, and just get out of my face, shut up, I don't want to know. And the Buddha really couldn't get her attention and couldn't figure out how to get through. So what he did was just trample through her veggie patch. And she was so incensed that she actually noticed him and just went rah, 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 rah. And in his mind, he's like, good, now I've got your attention. Now we've made the connection. The connection is there. Now I can lead you to enlightenment. So this is like, not everybody liked the Buddha, but from an enlightened perspective, any connection, there is a power there. And with our bodhicitta, we can dedicate that power can be beneficial, and that it can be the hook between us and the sentient beings, that may we lead them on the Dharma path through the power of that connection. So it's really great, because it means that anyone that, even you road rage or anything like that, that connection you can dedicate in this way to become a connection to the Dharma. So here we go. Due to all the merits of the 3 times accumulated by me and by others, merely by seeing, hearing, remembering, touching, or talking to me, may any being be freed in that very second from all their sufferings, diseases, spirit harms, negative karmas, and obscurations, and abide in the peerless happiness of full enlightenment forever. So that's everybody, friend, enemy, stranger. Alrighty-o, well, take care, everyone. Thank you so much for coming along, and I hope to see you next week, same time, same place. And for wherever you are in the world, it's Sakadawa somewhere. It's still Buddha's birthday, so happy Buddha's birthday.
Thank you so much, Miffi and everyone.